The amount of consumer blaming that I see out of PlayStation discontinuing physical releases is mind-boggling. The disc, the case, the shipping, the manual, and the map poster disappeared, yet somehow the price went up! You can thank Sony's terrible financial decisions and investments on that. See Concord, see Bungie, see hardware prices rising. Sony, or at least the PlayStation branch, is bleeding cash. And this is just a desperate measure to save them. Gamers are crack addicts that will justify anything to feed an addiction. I'm sorry, what? How is this the gamers' fault? Corporations deciding to save costs at the expense of the consumers is not the consumers' fault. The moment we start blaming consumers is the moment these corporations get away with what they're doing. I suggest you stop it and start taking these corporations accountable. Console fanboys are way too ingrained with the fear of missing out that they do not see the value in old games. Steam has the best sales. I can't wait for the summer sale. The reality? Old games that were on subscription services for years. Yes, that's why we love Steam sales. We get to buy old games for a huge discount. You're saying it as if that's a bad thing. Also, it depends on how you define old, because at the time of the sale, there's Stellar Blade, X33, Kingdom Come 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and many more on that sale. I guess you guys can enjoy it on your DOA Steam machines. Dude, the Steam machine is pretty expensive, but it's far from dead. Despite the high prices, there is clearly a demand for the machine, and when the hardware market prices normalize, the price for the Steam machine will come down, and the sales will come up. PlayStation fanboys really think that this is an own. If you are switching to PC because PlayStation is going digital only, I have some news for you. Yes, PC is also digital only, but it is the best form of digital only. Yes, all Steam games have DRMs. Yes, if you lose your account, you lose your whole Steam library. But PC also offers GOG, which is DRM free, and you can download the games from the 7 Cs. Pirated digital copies are actually way better than physical copies. They preserve the game as is. They don't need online verifications or checks. They don't need to have patches be downloaded. Most likely, it's already the latest patch. It's the reason why I still stick to PC gaming. You actually own the copy of the software. It's sad that true ownership of digital goods these days requires a lot of effort, but at least it is entirely possible on PC, and it doesn't have to be achieved with piracy. True ownership of PlayStation consoles is only possible if they are jailbroken. In other words, piracy. If you jailbreak your console, you can install games there for free. But again, that requires effort. Unfortunately, most companies these days do not see any incentives to make their consumers' lives better. Their only incentive right now is to survive, because they are bleeding cash after way too many failures. It's nice that we are fighting to stop games from being killed, but that doesn't mean we should depend on them changing their hearts. We ourselves should preserve the games that we have in our own ways. True ownership these days requires effort, one that I think should be mandatory to learn to this day if you want gaming to survive in the next foreseeable years. Man, the excuses that people make for this one is ridiculous. So, everyone's saying they won't buy a PS6 or Helix because of the price and no physical discs. No, I don't believe that. Gamers will still buy PlayStation 6 regardless of digital or physical. If they want to get caught with FOMO, they're gonna buy PS6 regardless. Not that we need a PS6 right now. What's your alternative? Nintendo? At least Nintendo is selling their consoles for cheaper. At least Nintendo still prioritizes single-player games. They're not the highest quality these days, but at least they're making them. PC has no physical games either, and it's even more expensive. Even more expensive? Where did you get the notion of that one? Just because it's expensive to build a modern gaming PC doesn't mean PC gaming can only be achieved with modern gaming PCs. You can play PC games on a netbook. You can play PC games on a dual-core laptop. PC games are not just the ones being released today. They are also defined by the ones released in the past. This is something that many FOMO console peasants cannot appreciate. Are we all just quitting gaming? Not entirely, no. I don't quit every aspect of gaming. I still play older games. I still play older titles that are still fun to play to this day. I've been all digital for 11 years. I haven't lost access to any games. I don't have to constantly get up to change this, and I save space. Good for you. That doesn't mean people won't consider physical copies. That doesn't mean this won't happen to anyone else. Clearly, you have zero empathy to those who lost their games and who prioritize physical copies. The used game market barely saves you any money unless you buy old games. What? Unless you buy old games? That's exactly why you buy used. You buy old games used. Why would you want to buy new games used? The game must have sucked so bad that people are reselling them at a loss. Also, barely saves you any money? I literally sold my copy of The Last of Us Remastered for $7. How is that not saving any money on the consumer side? Empathy is incredibly destructive. I know, my name makes the part of the word apathetic, but even I find this apathetic assessment incredibly unproductive. I haven't bought a physical game since 2019. I really couldn't care less. Then shut your mouth, dude. You're not adding anything to the conversation at all. Telling the world that you don't care doesn't contribute anything. How about you tell us what you actually care about? Who cares about delisting? If you already beat the game, who cares if it gets taken down? Wow. Tell that to the people that lost their copy of Spec Ops The Line or Unreal Tournament. I do. I'm not the only person who will play the game and beat the game. There are many others that will do the exact same thing. Did you not think of them? Also, even if I have beaten the game once, there is a chance that I might want to replay and beat it again. I did that with Resident Evil 4 Original, at least once a year. When was the last time you held a game disc in your hand? Literally now. I have copies of these games on the PS4 that I want to sell. Just because you don't buy physical doesn't mean everyone else doesn't. Another day, another terrible take from the Roach streamer. If you want to ask and you want to wonder why this is happening, it's our fault. That's the way it is. That's right, guys. PlayStation deciding to end physical media copy is entirely our fault. No, Asman, it's not. Sony burned a lot of money on worthless live service garbage like Concord that got cancelled after just a couple weeks. Sony's investment on Bungie does not yield any tangible results. Their profit margins are shrinking, they are losing money entirely because of their terrible decisions, and they're about to raise PS Plus again. But okay then, it's our fault, right? I think they're making the right decision. They made the right business decision for the situation that they themselves created. They wouldn't have made those decisions if they hadn't put themselves in that situation. It's definitely not a pro-consumer move. They made the right decision in the sense that somebody who crashed a car while drunk made the right decision to call an ambulance. You wouldn't need to make an emergency decision if you don't make that stupid decision to begin with. I think that they realized that nobody's buying physical media anymore. Yes, they are. There are many that still buy physical media. I literally sell them. I sold some of them, and I'm about to have a buyer that's gonna buy in a bundle. I'm in Indonesia, where people are struggling with cash, and gaming isn't a huge priority. And there are still people buying physical copies of games here, let alone in first world countries. Just because you don't buy physical doesn't mean everyone else don't. PlayStation as a company is bleeding. They are in a desperate survival mode thanks to the absolute loss from their investments, and the hardware market increasing the cost of making consoles really don't help. That's not their fault, but it definitely contributes to this decision. Stopping physical copies altogether is the correct business decision to save a desperately failing company that is bleeding cash and with shrinking profit margins. A situation that they put themselves in. And we have to pay for their loss. No thanks. It's not enough that the Roach streamers defending Sony stopping physical copies of games. We also have the suckers of the Roach streamer. I did research with various AI, and they all say the same. Oh wow, you research with various AI and they all say the same. That makes you quite the researcher, right? The Roach streamer also did the exact same thing on a different issue, but here's the thing. I also research with AI, except I come to a way better conclusion than you. Let's see what claims you conclude. Most PlayStation game sales, 90%, come from digital buyers. That is completely and totally misleading. 85% of all full game software sales are on digital, but they only count new retail purchases, not old purchases. The reason why there are more digital sales is because there are more digital games, and they are easier to buy, not because consumers prefer buying digital over physical. It's just not worth nor logical for Sony to make physical games anymore because consumers prefer to buy digital by 9-to-1 ratio. Absolutely misleading. Yes, it's not worth it for Sony to make physical copies anymore, but that's because they are bleeding cash literally everywhere else. Their games don't sell well, their acquisition of Bungie is a disaster, hardware prices rise. Removing physical copies is the correct business decision for a situation that they put themselves in. All this is made at the expense of the consumers. We shouldn't just blame Sony for removing physical copies. We should blame them for making insanely stupid investment decisions that lead to them bleeding cash right now. The people at Sony are completely out of touch with what the gamers want. Say what you want about Valve and their insanely priced Steam machine, at least they know what the majority of gamers want, even if they have to be sold at a price that really can't be blamed on them. Say what you want about gacha games, at least they know how to milk and squeeze gamers out of their hard-earned cash better than these AAA game companies. Sony doesn't make decisions for the gamers. They make decisions for their own survival, and they are bleeding. Stopping the production of physical copies highlights a harrowing symptom of Sony's failure as a company, and we as consumers are expected to pay for their terrible business decisions. Do you want to pay for their mistakes? I certainly don't. People really think that digital copies are worthless, but that's only true for digital copies with DRM. Digital copies with no DRM is incredibly valuable. You can run them and install them anywhere and anytime you like, and you get them either to GOG or to the 7 Seas. Any game I purchase on GOG has no value after you buy it. What do you mean? If you buy the game on GOG, you got the installer. You can install the game anywhere you like. I can't sell it if it goes up in price. I can't trade it in at GameStop. I can't take it to a pawn shop. You don't determine the value of DRM-free digital copies on whether you can sell them. You value them based on whether you can install them and get them to work. I can't wrap it up as a gift for someone, and I can't pass it down to my grandkids in 20 years. Yeah, you clearly have never bought games on GOG. You can absolutely pass them on your grandkids in 20 years, assuming that the game can still run in the next 20 years. You know what definitely isn't backwards compatible? The PlayStation consoles. Try putting a copy of Metal Gear Solid 4 on the PS5 and see if it runs. This is an incredibly pedantic argument regarding backwards compatibility. PC does not have backwards compatibility. Try playing any CD-ROM from before 2005 on modern hardware. Get yourself a USB disc reader, run the installer, play. Yes, some games don't run out of the box, but once you get the community fixes you can find online, they will run. That isn't true backwards compatibility. If you can't just insert the disc inside and have to use community patches or GOG, then it's just updating the game at that point, which means changing the original files. Changing the original files to make the game run better, that's called a patch. The game being patched either by the developers or by the community doesn't mean the game isn't backwards compatible. PC games are backwards compatible. That is just a fact. Even if you have to run DOSBox or patch the game with community patches, the game will run just as it was intended back then, probably even better. You know what definitely isn't backwards compatible? Try putting Infamous 2 on a PS5. PC is the kind of platform where you might not be able to run Resident Evil Chronicles HD if you put the PS3 disc on a Blu-ray reader, but you can run it on an emulator. you can run it. You can never do something like that on a PlayStation. And that's all for the video today. Here's a cat. Huge thanks to all the wonderful sponsors this week. You're all fantastic. Don't forget to check out my previous videos here. Click the like button, comment, subscribe, join the YouTube membership, leave some tips, just $1 down below. And thanks for watching.